Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And guys, I'm just going to say right off the bat, I really enjoyed it. Cut right to the chase. Now, I personally, my favorites of the franchise have been Mission Impossible 3, actually, as well as the original 1996 film. And Fallout, though, is really close to that, which was 6. And one of the best things I can say about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is that it succeeds for me because it sort of combines my favorite elements of those 3 movies. It has the the spectacle and the high octane extreme stunt action of Fallout, as well as kind of like how elaborate and good the fight scenes have gotten. But then Dead Reckoning Part 1 manages to kind of even more so like pull it down to earth and make it feel like a very character driven, suspense based spy thriller in the sense, or more in the vein of the original film. And then a touch of what the grit that I think Mission Impossible 3 had, that a couple of the others lost a bit after that. So it really feels like the perfect storm, and if it carries over into Dead Reckoning Part 2 at all, consistency wise, then I think it's gonna be quite the two-parter. But yeah, I loved it. It's 2 hours and 43 minutes, I believe, and I don't really think a lot of movies these days honestly need to be that long, but a lot of them seem to be. But if the story's there and they know how to space out certain aspects of the story, I think it can work. It can justify it, and I think Dead Reckoning is one of those that actually does. I was pretty impressed with how well the story is paced out. Another thing with it is stakes. It doesn't become the Fast and Furious franchise or any of the other bigger blockbuster series like that. There is a significant character death in this movie that I have somewhat mixed feelings on, that I may or may not discuss in another separate video. But overall, I can deal with it because it reminds us of the reality of the world these movies are taking place in, that anyone can actually die, everyone is vulnerable, and it fits in a certain way, but we can discuss that in another video. But to kind of talk about that, but also tie back to the vibe of the movie I was getting, those strengths of those other few films together, is that there's a sequence that you probably see in the trailer, with the alley and everything like that, a really narrow alley, and there's a whole thing that's going on around that. It was genuinely tense, and it reminded me, without spoilers, of like the opening of the original Mission Impossible film. Not that everyone dies, but like the whole intensity and the kind of grimness of that scene, that you felt like walls were closing in, figuratively and literally. That was probably my favorite sequence in the whole movie. The cast does awesome. Tom Cruise, say what you want about him personally, the world's full of grays, unfortunately. Scientology, of course, and never goes on with that, but then you hear from his coworkers that he's like this great professional, and he obviously has like a passion for film, and either way he continues to be a great actor, from a stunt perspective, but as well as just acting, he's always been very, very good. I talked about the alley scene, so I can talk about Palm. I can't pronounce her last name, but she played Mantis in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. This is probably my favorite role of hers. Rebecca Ferguson, I've absolutely loved Rebecca Ferguson in this series ever since she was introduced in Rogue Nation as Ilsa. Far and away the best female character in the series. She's very good here again as well. Vanessa Kirby, who seems to be even more on the rise lately. I loved her as Jason Statham's sister in Hobbs and Shaw, and I like her popping up again here. I really do hope she is the new Sue Storm. I could go on. There's Haley Atwell, Simon Pegg. But to go back to Haley Atwell, she is definitely charming in the movie. I think she develops a very quick chemistry with the rest of the cast. But at the same time, like from a character standpoint, I don't feel like she was fully necessary. I don't feel like the team necessarily needed another member. like, she's good in the role, she's enjoyable, so I can kind of overlook this, but her character feels rather cliche or underwritten, especially compared to like the one Rebecca Ferguson has been portraying. Haley Atwell just kind of feels more okay. She kind of feels like a plot device, somewhat to be saved, and just kind of hitting all the more expected notes. She doesn't feel like as real as, you know, like Ferguson's character. But she does, again, go over well from a performance standpoint, so I think that's something that may, that I may tolerate more and more as it goes, as I watch it again, by the way. Whether she's in the rest of the series or not, without spoilers, I do think she is an addition that doesn't necessarily hurt. It's just more of a gripe of mine. Yeah, it ends on a really good note, leaving just enough for that part 2, which I do hope is the finale of the series. I think it would work really well. I've heard mixed reports on if it's actually going to be the end, but I really look forward to that next year. Like I said, the runtime really wasn't an issue. It flew by at a pretty good pace. 2 hours and 43 minutes quickly turned to like an hour and 20 left. My parents, who are both in their 60s, managed to stay in the theater that whole time too, so that's a compliment. But yeah, I really love Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. The finale I know people have complained about with the train. Oh, it's so CG reliant compared to, like, the practicality of all the other stunts. It took me out of it, I guess, but I really don't think the effects were that bad, so I honestly still really enjoyed that sequence, and I thought it was a bit, I don't know if I want to say innovative, but I thought it was a bit at least fresh, with the crawling through the train that was overturned and going down. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's definitely one of my, probably honestly, top 3 of the entire series so far. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.